The Retro Buzz starts right after this.
Hey guys, welcome to another edition of the Retro Buzz. This is episode number 25, and before we get into introducing our guest, let's go through the panelists. And we have back this week from the, well, I thought he was back from the Abyss, but he was tied up in a chair last we saw him last week. What did you do?
I was playing a couple of NES games on my arcade machine, and next thing I knew, I got smacked in the back of the head right before the show.
Oh my goodness!
And he dragged me out. He dragged me out to his house, but I got away, and then he got me again. And then apparently Cole played him. I think he beat him in, I think it was Street Fighter. I think he beat him.
But he locked you in the closet.
Well, they always said I was always in the closet for one reason or another. It's all right.
Mr. Glen Planamento. Make sure you guys check him out. Also, we've got Mr. Douglas Smith, Mr. Cool Toy himself, with his Mortal Kombat gear.
Yep. Remind me to pay Negan $20 for taking care of business last week.
I knew it. It had to do with the Sega stuff. I knew it.
You got it.
We also got with us Daniel is back. Another Daniel is in the house here. He's got some interesting things to show Mr. Pesina when we get to him. And we've also got with us the man from the This Ability Upgrades. We've got Mr. Oreo. Angel.
Hey.
Come on, man. That's going to be your new nickname now.
No. I know. I see that.
And we've got the man of the hour. We've got Mr. Master Daniel Pesina.
Johny Cage.
Welcome, sir. Johny Cage himself.
Johny Cage.
So we're gonna have some fun today, and this is something I know you've been doing a lot of different shows that have been around the interwebs. I know you were on with P-Dubs, but we wanted to see. Probably gonna ask you some things that you probably already had happen. But how did you get into all this? How did you become the legendary Johny Cage?
Yeah, actually, there was a group of friends who hung out together. And one of those guys, we would go to the arcade, we would play Dungeons and Dragons, we collected comic book. My brother was into art drawing, and one of those guys who drew with him, was John Tobias. So years later, after I finished doing stunts on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, he called me up, and he actually called my mom's house because I still lived at home. But anyway, he called my mom up and said, hey, have Daniel call me back. And so basically, I put him off for a while, and I finally got Kano, Rich DeVizio, actually made me call him back. But that's a different story. Like, stood in front of me and waited until I marked all the numbers, old dial phone. So then I called John up, and he asked me if I could help. He had an idea for a fighting game, and he wanted me to help him pitch the idea to the business he worked for, Midway Bally. They made video games and pinball games. So he was like, my idea is to have a live action fighting game. You guys are going to fight each other, and it's going to be live. And, he wanted to, at the time, he wanted it to actually, there was a game called Dragon Slayer. He wanted it to look like Dragon Slayer, but live.
That's pretty cool.
That's very cool.
So you guys, I saw
at.
pictures on the internet with you on Ninja Turtles where, isn't it one of your buddies was actually Raphael, and you were one of the foot soldiers in that?
Actually, Liu Kang is Raphael.
Oh, okay, yeah, I knew it was somebody
Yeah.
that was there. I saw the picture. I
Cage.
was trying to grab the picture, and I didn't get a chance to grab it. But I'm gonna let these guys ask some questions too, because I know everybody's kind of like
Get over here.
waiting, and Glenn.
Literally, get over here.
So since Angel was willing to share the spotlight today with you, we're gonna pass it over to him. I know he's got to look at this guy, the super fan, Mr. Oreo.
Get over here!
Look at that. Most of the characters on here is Master Pesina. We got the Johny Cage somewhere here. Johny Cage over here.
He's
Sub-Zero,
right next to the
Scorpion.
Kano.
Yeah, he's everywhere. I mean, I know your brother was raiding, correct?
Yeah, my brother's Raiden,
Raiden.
which is
Right.
a character originally I wanted to be Raiden.
Right.
Yeah.
But do you feel that your character is more? I think your character is more iconic, though.
Yeah, I got lucky, and again, goofing around when we were first throwing the idea before we actually presented the idea to Midway, to Ed. John goofed around and said, "I'm going to make you Striker," because I did not want to be Striker. I wanted to be Raiden, and then I wanted to be the Daniel Rad character, Michael Grimm, I think his name was. Later on, they changed his name to Johny Cage. But yeah, I wanted to be those characters, and goofing around, John was like, "I'm going to make you be Striker." And I was like, "Oh, crap," because it was like, generally he's, nothing wrong with a police officer, but a police officer with very little martial art training does not belong fighting hand to hand in a universe of demons and other people who know how to fight.
Right. And he later became Cable.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Right. I wanted to show you guys an old relic before we move on. I've had this since like years ago. I don't know if you can see this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, nice.
Mortal Kombat.
Angel, did you go see that?
That is like, yes, I did. I actually saw this in Radio City Music Hall years ago. I wanted to know, what hands did you have in this tour? Like, did you have to do any of the choreography and stuff like that for this or anything?
No, actually, when it came to, after I was done helping create the game in 1 and 2, they started selling off parts to different merchandising and franchising branches. So Midway really didn't have that much to do with the live tour. They sold it off to a different company.
Right.
So I was kind of removed from that. But I wasn't disappointed too, because I knew those guys really worked hard and didn't get paid a lot. And when you're doing a tour like that, you get injured a lot.
And I know one of the characters wound up being on the movie, and he wound up being on the series. The guy with the long black hair, braids. I know, and he gets killed in the movie. I think he gets killed by Shang Tsung in the Mortal Kombat 1 movie. So I know he was on the tour and he was on the series.
Yeah, I could see his face. I see his face in my mind, and I can't remember his name. But he was also on MAC Masters, right?
Yes, he was. But it would have been great. It would have been better to have you there.
Oh,
would have been
thank
better
you.
to have you there.
Thank you.
Hey, Doug, I know
you guys can act away.
Well, I was gonna say, Doug, you probably got some questions for him, but I know there's some super chats. If you want to, Doug usually is the guy that handles. You want to plow through them and then hit up any questions you got for Master
from
Pesina.
Dr. Zohar Weisman, we've got Master Pesina. You are a living legend. I love you. You're the best. So high praise from Zohar there. Then we had a question from Peter Griffin Electric Drums. Says, please guys, helps. What is the best, easiest 4-way joystick I can purchase to replace my Arcade 1-Up Pac-Man Cab First Wave cabinet that I can just plug in without doing anything complicated because I'm not a tech type. Even though it's not a 4-way joystick, I suggested the Sanwa JLF joystick. You can throw a 4-way restrictor on there and make it a piece of cake, but it'll be plug and play for them. So that's typically what everybody goes with for the mod. And then we got one from Arcade Renegade. Says, just want to say thanks to all my friends. So
awesome.
Braxton. Appreciate the kind words and the super chat from Braxton.
And just so you guys know, the money that comes in for these super chats, what we're going to do is, because it goes into my PayPal, what we're going to do is we're going to do a giveaway on the show. Whatever total amount that comes in, we'll put it toward, I'll talk with Glenn and Doug to see what we can get for that, and then we'll do a giveaway. We'll do a giveaway on the show here for you guys. We really appreciate it. The contributions that you put out, just showing up means a lot to us. So, Doug, you got any
Yes,
questions
sir.
for the master?
I do. I've got a question. Obviously, you're known worldwide for Mortal Kombat, but I was just curious how you got into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for your stunt work.
There was a tournament in Atlanta, Georgia called the Battle of Atlanta. And it was a national tournament. I think at that time they had like 7 or 1,000 competitors. So it was a really big tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And they were there looking around for martial artists to do martial arts stunts. The stunt industry was a little different back then. You really had to know what you're doing. And you'd have to take a hit without complaining, because a lot of the whole thing is like, I'm going to turn sideways. The turtle suit, the head of the turtle is about this far away from you, and the eyes are about like this big. So you can only see what's directly in front of you. So if you look at the old movie, you'll see us kind of always moving around kind of goofy, because we didn't want to get caught flat-footed, because when the turtle threw the kick, he didn't really know where he was throwing the kick. Our job was to basically jump in front of the kicks, punches, or throws, or anything like that. We had to recognize what was being delivered and then get in front of it. So you needed to know what you're doing.
Yeah,
And,
you had to close that distance.
Yeah, you had to close the distance. Actually, I recall doing Vanilla Ice was on stage doing the ninja rap. Go ninja,
yeah,
go ninja,
rap.
go. Yeah. So Stephen Ho was one of the he was Donatello. He grabbed me by the back of the head. He was supposed to roll me and throw a roundhouse kick to the face. And so that way, when I get kicked in the face, I'm going to get kicked right here, and it's not that bad, you know. But what happens is, after he did the roll, he got turned around, and he instead of doing a roundhouse kick, he did a side kick, which is a very dangerous kick. Roundhouse kick is used a lot in sport because it might break your rig or break your jaw, but it will not kill you. A side kick delivered properly will kill you. But anyway, he caught me in the face, in the mouth, and my front teeth got so loose, I had to wear a special mouth guard to keep my teeth from falling out.
Oh,
but I didn't go get the mouth guard until after the day of filming. So I continued filming. You know, sometimes I'd be holding my teeth. You know, I was like, oh, fuck. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, holy cow, I'm going to lose my teeth.
Yeah, that's a little,
Yeah.
you know,
Could be a
little scar you.
Yeah.
That'll make you a little conscious of the next kind of kicks with that next couple of takes, I'm sure.
Yeah, but what you got to do, suffer for the art. You guys know all about that.
Absolutely.
I think Glenn, you need to get some pointers from Master Pesina so you don't get stopped throwing yourself into a closet there. What do you think?
Well, first of all, that was Negan doing that, but I got to say 2 things here with Daniel on here. I keep saying, you know what, my whole day is just thrown all off here, but I did want to say that Zohar, I got to say, is a huge Mortal Kombat fan, but also Doug is also into the martial arts as well. So I'm sure Doug has got a lot more questions for him over that. Yeah, it's me, I don't have to worry about anything. I got these 2 guns here.
Test your might.
I mean,
register weapons.
Right. See, when the martial artists come to make their punches at me, they can't hit me because I'm too thin. They just go right past.
Come here!
So I'm good. but honestly, I did want to ask you one thing seriously, because you started at the beginning, so you were there for Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, right, with the 2 original ones. Those are my personal favorites. You know, those are the ones I grew up on, and they're my favorites. So when you were doing this, obviously you did more than one character, but in doing this, which character was the hardest for you to do? Whether it was a move that they did, or just in some mannerism they wanted to have, which one of those characters for you was the most difficult to do?
Actually, like even though my favorite character is Johny Cage, because he's the father of all Mortal Kombat characters. With Johny Cage, we did the whole pathway to the fighting game. He was the experimental guy. We did all the experimentation on Johny Cage. But I would say the most uncomfortable, and two, at the beginning, so everybody understands, we were filming on concrete, and I was landing and doing flips onto my back and falling on a concrete floor. So that was not as bad as filming the Lin Kuei. What happened was, John and I went to a martial arts store to buy a ninja outfit for the bottom part of the Lin Kuei. So that guy who was going to be the Lin Kuei Scorpion and then later on Sub-Zero is Tony Marquez, Kung Lao. And the day before he was going to film, he dropped a weight on his toe and broke his toe. So he couldn't. And in order to do the martial arts in Mortal Kombat, you had to do everything really, really slow to get a clean image because we were using a non-professional camera. Actually, John Tobias's dad owned the camera that we filmed the first Mortal Kombat on. So it was a high 8, but it wasn't studio quality. So it was like, it was kind of like
video.
that. Yeah, it's kind of basically. But when we were buying Tony the outfit for the Lin Kuei, there was a price difference between a child's extra large and the adult small. So we decided to buy the child's extra large and let Tony deal with having a tight costume just to save money. But then Tony couldn't do it, so I had to put it on. So I am much broader than
Johny
Tony.
Cage.
So
A little tight in the pants.
So the first kick I did, I ripped the pants, and then we're in this makeshift studio, and there's no safety pins. I think we have maybe 2 safety pins. So this uniform started ripping and falling all over the place because it wasn't meant for me, and 2, it was really, really inexpensive. But we started putting together with straight pins. So a lot of times when I was filming for the Lin Kuei, I would be getting stuck with straight pins, and that was really uncomfortable.
Oh man.
The price you got to pay, because again, Mortal Kombat was probably the second motion capture game. I'm not sure if Pit Fighter was first. From Atari, it might have been.
Yeah.
Right. So you guys are right up there. So it was a brand new technology as well. Doing that motion capture, editing, getting all that inside the game was a very new type of thing. How did it feel like with even the programmers getting that thing going and make sure that everything was fluid and that all the effects were in there? I mean, how did that all stuff progress? It was such a new thing back then. I mean, today it's everything, but back then it was new.
Yeah, actually, there was no Photoshop. There was no motion capture like we know today. And they put the balls on your joints in different positions to kind of catch you. This was just videotape, basically. But John and I spent about 5 days, 8 hours a day filming martial art moves and trying to figure out just that process. So we didn't have any programmers in until about the 6th day because there was nothing for them to kind of take a look at. We didn't have anything for them to be like, oh, we need to do this or that. So it took us about 5 days, 5 8-hour days to get to a starting point. And 2, the budget was so cheap that we would tape over moves to save money on tapes. So the original maybe 48, 50 hours of the making of Mortal Kombat is lost forever. It got taped over.
Ouch.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's right.
and again, when John asked me to do the game, he as a favor, he said we were only going to make 200 games, 200 arcade cabinets. No mention of doing more. When we were done with Mortal Kombat and getting ready to make it public, they already pre-sold 10,000 games. So And that wasn't even like, we didn't even plan it on going to the home version. That all steamrolled later.
So
Mhm.
is that why? Is that
Good. Steve.
well? No. I was gonna say
ahead.
I played that footage while you and Glen were talking. Is that why that there's only bits and pieces of that footage around because you guys basically taped over it, right?
Yeah, I have about 6 hours of original footage.
Wow.
Of that, and what you just saw is like my footage. Warner Brothers made me pull it down. Just it's
Yeah, I stole it
it's
from your
kind-
website
it's
for the
kinda-
show.
yeah, it's good. It's kind of no, it's out there like crazy. But anyway, it's it's the I understand that it's kind of their intellectual property, but not kind of, in my opinion, not really, because it was never we never
Released a
thought
part of the game.
right.
Yeah.
And two, it's my image. They don't own the rights to my image. That's why when they put out when they bought the rights from Midway and they bought out Mortal Kombat 1, I'm not on the side of the cabinet because they don't have the right to put my image on the right to use my image. So it's a little, right now it's a little kind of weird, but it is what it is.
Well, two other quick questions I want to throw in there. One, obviously it was Midway that put out Mortal Kombat. Was that your guys' first choice, or that you kind of shopped it around and they're the ones who picked it up? That's the first question. Actually, why don't we just start with that before I go to part two of the question? Was Midway, I guess, the people you went to initially, or had that work out?
Yeah, Tobias already worked for Midway. He had already done 1 or 2 games for them, and so he already worked there, and the presentation was for that, for us to give them the complete concept, like his concept, and then and that's where originally they said no.
Fatality.
I thought it would be after that we gave him a pitch. John showed him the video and showed him his drawings, and then I had a meeting with Ed representing Midway, and they thought that this idea of Mortal Kombat was not. They said no, basically no to it. They thought it would be better if they did a mainstream fighting game with Jean-Claude Van Damme. You would make a lot more quarters than this game. So they thought, But
they kind of didn't do too well.
yeah, exactly. I always thought it was myself, and especially myself and Rich Kano, who always thought this would be a really super cool game because they were allowing us geeks, because I'm a geek. I collect comic books. I got a stack of comic books in the room right next to us right now, sitting on the floor. But
That's what I
anyway,
like to hear.
It's just that we were geeks, and we were like, we play video games. I go to the arcade. We would all go to the arcade. Everybody in Mortal Kombat 1, except for Sonya, knew each other before that, and we all, with Tobias, would go to arcade. We would go to different arcades in Chicago. I was going to start naming them, but it's international. It won't make any sense. But anyway, so we always thought it'd be cool, but apparently the company, but with their right, they're looking to make quarters. They're not really interested in making a groundbreaking thing unless it makes quarters. So
right. It was a new thing. So that was the next part of the question, because the game was a smash. I mean, people flocked to it. It made a lot of quarters, and that got the attention of somebody else, the government. How did you guys feel when the whole government was just like, this Mortal Kombat thing, it's out of control, it's too violent, it's making people go, murder people left and right, which is all not true. But how did you guys take that when Mortal Kombat became the center of this humongous controversy with the rating system, violence? How did that go?
Well, at the beginning of that, when that first started, the controversy about that first started, John and Ed could not say anything, would not give real interviews on that subject because they worked for Midway. But me, I did not work for Midway. So John would call me up and say, hey, this person is looking for an interview. You got, you should, interview them and tell them, how we never really thought that it was going to, we made it for a younger adult, not a young adult, but we made it for kids who go to the arcade. When you go to the arcade, you have your own money in your pocket. You're not 8 years old running around alone in the arcade. You could be
No.
Not unless your name is Glen.
Yeah, 12, 13, 14 years old, something like that at that time. So John would be like, okay, here's the number I told them you're going to call. So I would call them up and set up interviews, and then just, and then talking to John and Ed, they're like, hey, they're going to try to bait you. They would coach me on things to say, and they're going to try to get you to, they're going to be all nice, and then they're going to spring it on you like you created a violent game, shame on you. But then you got to stay focused and nice and come back and say, well, we made it for a older generation. We didn't make it for 4 or 5 year olds. So then it got even bigger, and Ed got to go in front of Congress, I think. So he got the glory.
Wow.
Wow.
You did.
Put in the
Listen,
hot seat
when you
for
started
sure.
this, you didn't think that was going to be, a nationwide phenomenon. It's like when Star Wars came out, pre-Kathleen Kennedy, by the way.
Here we
When
go.
Kathleen Kennedy Star Wars had come out, George Lucas didn't think it was going to be that big a thing. But the movie, he made it, and it turned out.
Fatality.
I assume you guys didn't. You said 200 games initially, so you had really no idea of how influential and popular this game was going to be.
Right. We did not know that. John got an inkling that it was going to be a success when he took it out the first time to test it. It was a Super Bowl Sunday, and he didn't really expect a lot of people to play it, but they're going to put it out anyway just to see how it does, see if it, breaks down, if it turns off. So he takes it in the arcade, and he's like, when he tells the story, he's like, man, there was hardly anybody in the arcade. So I take it in there, and about 2 hours later, the arcade calls me up and says, hey, there's something wrong with your machine. And so he's like, oh crap, I got to stop watching the Super Bowl. I'm going to run over there and check out the machine. So he looks at the machine, it looks good, and he opens the coin box, and the coin box is filled. What happens is when the coin box gets filled, you can't play the game because it can't take any more quarters, so it turns off. So John empties it, and he looks around, and the place is still not that hopping. There's some people there, but there's not a lot. And he's like, okay. And about another 2 hours later, he got a call again. Hey, there's something wrong with the machine. And he's like, oh boy. And he goes out. First thing he does is look at the coin box, and it's full. And then he was just like, oh my God. He's like, this is going to be a hit. This is going to be a hit.
You know what the big thing about what you just said there is? There's one other machine that did the same thing where they thought it was broke, and when they opened it, it was full of quarters, and that was Atari's Pong. Pong, Mortal Kombat.
Excellent.
Both iconic pieces of arcade history, for sure.
Yeah,
That's exactly it.
I love Pong.
Don't tell him that.
Boom.
Please don't do that. Please don't
We
get
can
him.
have a Mortal Kombat Pong. Bong. Finish him.
Bink.
Done. Fatality. Murder.
So there was a question in Facebook here from Adam. Let me see if I can grab it. He said he wants to find out more about how his starring role in Press Start came about.
Press start. So basically, I was, I would at the martial arts school. I'm just teaching martial arts. I really don't. Somebody else checks the email at that time, and so I'm playing Halo, and then I get a call and said, "Hey, you should really take a look at this message on that we got on our school, email." And I'm like, "Okay." After I'm done, and so he's like, "You should really take a look at it." So, played Halo until about 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I kind of looked at the message, and it was a message from Ed, different Ed, and he asked if it was possible if I was interested in having a small part in his independent movie. And he also asked if Carlos was interested, my brother Raiden was interested in doing it. And I was just like, okay, sure, help this guy out if he needs help. I could do some work. So he basically arranged to come into Chicago, and we filmed in my school. At the time, the school was about little over 6,000 square feet. The ceilings were about 22 feet high, so it was a big school. But he had his production crew come in there, and we filmed Press Start. And it was pretty funny because Carlos refused to say his lines. he always wanted to add something to it. He wanted to be like a smart aleck and kind of, you know, goof. And that's too, when we made Mortal Kombat, we were always goofing around. You know, we were always, you know, it was like if you can imagine, if you ever played D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, when you're on a campaign and all that goofing around is happening, that is how we made Mortal Kombat. And also that is how we made our part of that film, Press Start.
Very, very cool. Now, I know, you know, generations and generations, things change. And, you know, we've been talking about these arcade 1-ups, and I know P-Dubs asked you if you had one of those with the Mortal Kombat. I had picked up one that has Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, where my 7-year-old son had never played it before. He knew Mortal Kombat 11.
It also has 3.
It also has 3, yes. Yeah. So he had never played it, and then he started getting into it, and he wanted to show you some things that he's been collecting since then. And I think you'll like the first one that he's going to show you here.
This is Johny Cage figure, the figure of Johny Cage.
Yeah, the McFarlane, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Excellent.
Cool.
Johny Cage wins.
So
there's more than where that came from. There's also Raiden.
Oh, my brother. Awesome. There's a funny story behind that.
And go ahead. What else? What else you got?
Sub-Zero.
He also played him.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then he's got one more here. He's going to show you here.
Scorpion.
Get over here!
It also has a on the back. It shows
The
Rope
hook.
there. Yeah.
yeah. It comes with that.
So I just
Cool.
Actually friends with him.
I think it's funny though how the generations, like, we know it from the original Mortal Kombat. He plays that. I mean, he plays the game, but he goes back to his Switch with Mortal Kombat 11, and how much the generations.
My Switch doesn't. It keeps on saying, "Oh, it needs a download." Doesn't download.
But you know, these guys are getting into the Mortal Kombat generations later, and I think Glen, Doug, it looks cool. Don't get me wrong, but it's like there's too many buttons. Like the Mortal Kombat era was the era of the buttons. Like if you played that, you were like a master. And I think Glen, you said that before. You were like, yeah, there's a lot of buttons involved with that.
There is. I'm used to the old Atari. You got the one button. That's all you need.
Or the trackball for Centipede.
There you go.
I'm good at Centipede.
Master Daniel, man. Me and you will be getting more like. I mean, I was already there, but dang, buddy, we're right there.
You're reading minds. Ooh.
Yeah, we are.
Angel, you got anything over
Now-
there beside your? He's looking down at
Yeah.
something.
I wanted to know.
Fell asleep.
No, I'm here. I wanted to know what was the story there on the Raiden there.
With the sound effect.
Fighting my money!
Yeah.
The Raiden story there.
Yeah. So when we were filming Raiden, one of the things was like, so we had different hurdles to get over when filming. One of them was after I did about 50 jump up with my legs tucked, like if somebody's throwing a sweep. John kept on correcting me and saying, "Hey, don't jump too high. If you don't jump too high, because the lighting is only above, it's going to change the color of the top of your head. The top of your head is going to get darker, and we need you to stay all one color, all one light, lidded evenly." And so I did a few more jumps, and John is like, "Try to jump and hold yourself up." And then I kind of looked at him and was like, "John, you want me to float?" And he started laughing. He's like laughing. And I was like, what if I jump, you take that motion of jumping, and then I sit on something, and then you catch me on that, like we're sitting on it. So basically, instead of using a chair, I used the staircase, because on a staircase, you have to hold yourself in balance. Like on a chair, it looks like you're sitting on a chair, not actually jumping or flipping. But on a staircase, the way you can put yourself in the position where it looks like you're actually flipping. So anyway, we use the staircase. There it is. We use the staircase for different things. So John told Carlos, "Hey, I want you to come flying at somebody like Superman, like a superhero." flying across the screen because he's a god, so gods can fly. So
Right.
so he was going to do this, and then as he's getting on top of the staircase, that top of the staircase, he smashes his nuts, and he goes, "Oh!" So when he rolls off of it, he's like, "Oh!" and he rolls off of it. But every time he got on it, especially Ed, everybody would always go, "Oh, oh." So every time I hear that, "Oh," it reminds me of my brother smashing his nuts on the staircase, creating that move. So I'm always like laugh at that. So yeah, it's pretty funny. So now when you play it and you do it, you know the joke and you start.
So let's with that you were saying about the staircase. Let's show this clip here, where it looks like Kano almost falls off the stairs. What happened? It's just a small piece of clip, but
He did actually fall off.
what happened? Yeah, what happened with that? I saw another clip where he actually fell off. Is there like a story to that too? He just couldn't hold his balance. I think you went over and held him at some point on one of the clips that I seen.
So what happened was when we were filming, because I've already filmed Johny Cage doing a jump, and Rich, everybody on MK1 takes the same martial art style that I did. You know, we all come from 7-Star Praying Mantis, and we did contemporary wushu, contemporary martial arts. Wushu just means martial art. It's not really a style. But anyway, I'm blaming. So my job was to help Rich make Kano look different than how Johny Cage did his techniques. So that way he would have a different personality. So that way when you're playing, it wouldn't look like the same moves that the other guy did. It would look really, really different. So I positioned him on there, leaning back, because Johny Cage has more erect jump kick. So to make it look different, I had him leaning back, like flying at you at a different position, so people would understand that it's a different person and a different personality. So he just couldn't balance stuff on there. So I kind of would hold him up, and it wound up to be the general practice. I did that for every character. Would be hold them up in a different posture, so that way it wouldn't look like the last character. That way each jump kick would look different.
Now, Doug, do you do that with your jump kicks and stuff? Do you hold people in place so they don't fall?
I just go the easy route. I levitate. It's that black belt superpower. It just gives you the ability to levitate and hold your position in the air. But no, I was going to ask Daniel. You spoke about Mortal Kombat 1 kind of being a surprise hit. Obviously, once it got out there and became worldwide success, you guys went back to the studio and you started making Mortal Kombat 2. How was the experience making Mortal Kombat 2 and filming and doing it that way, now that you had this surprise worldwide phenomenon, under your belt, so to speak?
Well, the first day I came in to shoot for Mortal Kombat, John, Ed, and myself spent 2 hours cleaning out what I thought was a storage room, and cleaning out a space in front of a flat wall to shoot Mortal Kombat 1. So move desks and chairs and kind of sweep and generally make an area to start creating this game. So in number 2, they actually took that storage room and made it into a studio, and they actually bought a professional digitized camera. So, and they actually had lighting. And so everything, just the production quality just increased greatly.
That's good. It's good to hear that they upped the ante and gave some financial uptick to that instead of just trying to pocket the rest of it.
Well, they basically, that's why I didn't do 3, is because I was only going to do 200 games, and later on when I asked for my bonus, they decided not to give me anything. So just remember, you guys creating a game, get good representation, get a lawyer.
Yeah, always get a contract.
Yeah. Well, even if you have a contract, if you don't get everything exactly in writing, they'll be able to take advantage of you. And your friends can't really defend you. Like John couldn't really do anything to help us because he worked for the company. It was the decision of management and the owners to be like, okay, we promised you bonuses, but we didn't put it in writing, so we're not really, those promises are not really on the board anymore.
So sad, too bad,
That's
right?
Yeah. But you know,
Hello, darkness,
it's all
my
right.
old friend.
Exactly.
I'll talk to you again. I
It'll
had
make
to
me
do
cry.
that. I had to do it.
Awesome.
No one can't.
Master Pesina, real quick, whose idea was it for the nut punch?
Actually, John asked me to do it, but I think it might have been Ed's idea to do it because they said Jean-Claude Van Damme said no to the game. So when we're shooting Mortal Kombat, John asked me to do him. He was like, "Hey, we want to make fun of Jean-Claude Van Damme. Will you do some Jean-Claude Van Damme moves?" And I was like, "No, I'm not going to do any Jean-Claude Van Damme moves. I watched Jean-Claude Van Damme's movies, and I'll pay for it, but I refuse to. Sorry, but I'm a better martial artist than that guy, so I'm not going to copy him. I'm not going to copy him."
Fighting words. Fight.
Okay, anytime.
No, it's not. It's a fact.
So yeah, because he's a dancer. Jean-Claude Van Damme is a dancer. He came from a dancing background. I think he got up to like green belt, so he's not really a martial art guy. But anyway, at that time, might have improved later. But then John was like, "If you do this, I'll buy you a pizza." And he knew that I love pizza, man. I really love pizza, and I was like, "Okay, done. What do you guys want me to do?" So that's how John basically made me do the splits like 50 times in different angles to try to capture what you see in the video game. And it's pretty funny because in the end, I think it was the third take when he was like, "You know what? On the third take, I thought that was the best one." And then I was like, "Well, why did you make me do the rest?" And he kind of does the John Tobias smile where one side of it goes up and kind of goes up and his nose flares. His nose gets really big like that, and he goes like that. He's like, "Because I can." You know, basically, I'm like a monkey. Yeah, I'm like a monkey, and I'll do whatever for a pizza. So it was pretty funny.
Now, Daniel, we said before that you knew pretty much all the people on the Mortal Kombat 1 except for Sonya. So how did you guys find her?
Like
Was it a
like
dating app?
Hosa? No. She worked. She was an instructor at the gym I worked for. So, and naturally, she looks really athletic, and I wanted to make sure that I picked a female that wasn't like just like a model. I wanted her to be able to look like she could fight because all of us basically look like we can fight, and we look like we can fight. So I didn't want like a skinny model with no muscles, like doing this fighting game.
Like Glen.
Right.
But he's like a ninja. He's a ninja.
Yeah, he's a ninja, all right.
Get over here!
I was like, "Hey, Liz, I'm doing this video game, and we're looking for a female, and you know, it's a martial art game, but you know, I could coach you and show you how to do the moves, but we need somebody who looks like, you know, you look like you can beat butt." And she's like, "Okay." And so she came in and yeah.
Do you know why he's asking you, Master Pesina? Do you know why he's asking you? Because Glen is single and he wants her phone number. Yes, that's exactly it.
Definitely, absolutely.
That's why he's asking that question.
You
That's
can put her legs. You can put her legs just like this, and I'll be fine with it. Not be a problem.
Yeah, you know, I've been with conventions with Liz where grown men will just kind of all of a sudden you got this 35, 40-year-old guy just kind of shell shocked, and then they say, "You were my first love." and you kind of just
that's not
like,
creepy.
Yeah, I gotta look at it. I gotta looking at them, and I'm like, "Oh," and they don't even say anything. They just stare at her.
Oh, that's even worse.
That is worse.
You know, yeah. And I'm just like, "Oh my god, oh my god."
I seen in a documentary that she was the one that came up with the friendships, right?
Yeah. She actually, when we were, John asked me, he's like, "Hey, you got to think of a finishing move." That's what we called the fatalities at that time, were the finishing moves. That's where later on Finish Him came from. But John was like, think of a finishing move. And I was like, oh, we should do the kiss of death. And as I'm explaining it, Liz comes, she goes, I don't want to kill anybody. She goes, why can't we just be friends? Why can't I give them a flower and everybody could, she's like a hippie. She's like, you know, we could just be friends and peace and love like that. So we all laughed, but in number 2, there was friendships. So it was a good idea.
Well, so
Nice.
before we get to, there's a question in the chat room. Daniel actually has a question for you over here. Go ahead.
Did you make the style of the costume?
Oh, that's a good question.
No, actually, the only costume, well, Johny Cage's costume came from my closet because it is the 90s and we dressed like that, ridiculously dressed like that in the 90s, you know, in the biker shorts and stuff. Now that apparently they're doing that again with the longer tights. But anyway, so the only thing I did create was the link. I had John put the Lin Kuei in. Originally, the ninjas were going to be Japanese ninjas, and John had this drawing that he wanted Japanese ninjas. But part of the agreement to help him pitch this game to Midway and to do the game and help him create the game was he was going to let me put whatever I want into the game. And that would be kind of like, oh, you got to create the game. So I was like, okay, we need to change the Japanese ninjas into the Lin Kuei. And then John was like, the Lin Kuei? And then I proceeded to tell him about the Lin Kuei and took him to the martial arts store where he could buy the book on the Lin Kuei because I wasn't going to lend him my copy because I would never get it back. So, and if you look at the Lin Kuei, they are basically what Noob Salbot looks like. But John added the color. He's like, I want it yellow because otherwise you can't really see what you're doing. He goes, if you're all in black, you know, it's not, people are not going to be able to tell what you're doing. So I have to add some color. So basically the way the Lin Kuei story and the way Scorpion and Sub-Zero and the other ninjas look like is basically my 2 cents into the game.
Awesome.
Another
And 2
question.
cents is worth a lot of money back then, by the way.
Yeah.
Another question. Did you play Scorpion in the Mortal Kombat?
Come here! Yes, I did.
Reptile.
I played Scorpion.
I meant
I played Reptile too. I played Scorpion and Sub-Zero and Reptile. Cheap labor. I was like a cheap labor
I was going to say,
guy.
you're doing everything.
You.
Yeah, because I already knew, I was already helping, I was already creating moves and choreographing stuff and figuring out how to make that physical transition look good in the game, that in the end, it was just easier. When we were making Scorpion and they broke the news that they're going to do a palette swap, John was like, you know what, heck, just shoot 4 or 5 other ninjas. So we actually shot enough for another 2 or 3 Lin Kuei. And I think that's where the whole having a Reptile come out of it.
Well,
The actual idea for the secret kind of character was Carlos and Rich wanted to have a tag team, a secret tag team. They wanted the Kano and Raiden to jump out and, like in a kung fu movie, you got to fight both of them. You know, if you see the old Shaw brothers, the 2 good guys get together and fight the evil. So they wanted that idea, but they only wanted their characters to do that, and they wanted it to be a secret.
So. So basically, you played all the ninjas in Mortal Kombat except for Johny Cage.
Well, he played Johny Cage too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played Johny Cage too. Yeah.
Yeah. You played all the
Like I
ninjas.
said.
But so the bottom line here is he played the best character, which is Reptile.
Yeah.
That's all I need to know.
Well,
Well, all the
I
best
like Scorpion.
characters.
yeah, Scorpion for
Mine's
me.
a Scorpion. Yeah, mine's Scorpion too.
See, I like
Now, the
Reptile.
thing that Scorpion throws, I know you did it in a couple of videos, like for my son. What is that? And who came up with that idea for Scorpion to go, get over here, and pull the guy and pull him back in?
Basically, that's called a rope dart, shinbiao. It is used to pull horsemen off their horses. So it's basically a really long rope with a dagger or a really long piece of leather with a dagger around. When they used it originally, the dagger was like 2 pounds. So you got this 2 pound sharp object on a rope and you wrap it around your body to make centrifugal force, and then you shoot it out. So originally, what happened was when we're shooting the Lin Kuei, Ed got an idea. He's like, I want you to take a lasso and go around your head, and then you're going to throw it around the person, and then they're going to get tied up. And then you're going to walk up to them, and then you're going to be able to beat them up because they're tied up. And then I was like, man, one thing, that's like Wonder Woman, and I'm not going to do any Wonder Woman moves. You know, and then John basically told me not to be a smartass. But anyway, so I was like, but there's a weapon. And then I described the weapon to John, and then I showed him how to do it. And as I was showing him and then pulling him over, Rich DeVizio yelled out in his Kano voice, "Get over here." And then he did an uppercut. And we all laughed, but it was so hilarious and so cool that now whenever I hear it, I think Kano is doing, it's Kano's voice. When Rich would do stuff, he would always do stuff in the Kano, the gruffy Kano guy. But so I know Ed does the voice, but Ed is mimicking Kano's voice, saying "Get over here." So Rich DeVizio, shout out to Rich DeVizio for creating "Get Over Here."
All right, we got a question in the chat room here from Meatball Saucy. He says, question for Master Daniel. Leg sweeps and uppercuts dominate the Mortal Kombat landscapes. How many leg sweeps and uppercuts did you film across all of your characters in Mortal Kombat? Wow, that's a question.
Man, that's a really question, because originally the sweep was like, John was like, do a sweep. And I was like, a sweep? So I started thinking, it's like, you know, Karate Kid, how you sweep the leg. And I was like, well, technically, that's not a sweep. That's a trip. It's a leg trip. And then I started filming different ways to do the sweep. And then so I did the front sweep, and finally I was doing the back sweep, which you see in the game. And John was like, that is so cool. We're going to use that. But I must have done at least, I don't know, 15 different techniques. But the way we created the game was I would do a martial art move, and then John was like, do a martial art move 3 times and then change it in some way. So an example is, if I punch like this, I would do a punch like this. John would be like, okay, you're punching like this, change it. So then I did 3 punching like this. Then I did 3 with like this. Then I would do Tiger Claw. Then I would do a Southern Eagle Claw. Then I do a different claw. Then I do a Dragon Claw. And I was doing all these snake. I would do a snake. So I was doing all these techniques 3 times. And then I would be like, okay, I'm going to throw this punch, but I'm going to tilt my body this way. So I did it 3 times like this. And then I would do 3 times to the side this way. So this literally is why it took those 5 days of 8 hours a day to make the pathway to Mortal Kombat. That's what we were doing, is doing the technique like over 3 times and then change it in some minute way to get the correct look for the game. So maybe I would say, yeah, maybe for just the sweep and the uppercut, probably at least 3 hours worth.
Oh my.
That's a lot.
I really want to show
Yeah,
you
because
some-
we would do it different ways, you know, your body going different angles, and just to see how it looked. We would look at it, and then John would be like, I didn't like any of that. Then he'd erase all that, and we'd start tape over that. So that was basically the process.
Real quick before we got to wrap the show, Doug, we have a super chat in there, and then we'll give you guys a chance to call in. Master Pesina, if you got like 20 minutes for our post show, we open up the phone lines, and people can call in and ask you questions or ask anybody on the panel, but mainly you, because you're the showcase. So guys, stay tuned for that. We'll have that. But Doug, what do we got here in YouTube world?
So we got a super chat from Sling Slade, and it says, question for Master Pesina: how much of an influence and inspiration was the movie Big Trouble in Little China?
When we were pitching the game to Midway, that was one of the movies we said we wanted to borrow from. So not necessarily Raiden, because John had a fascination with the Japanese God of Thunder, Raiden. And though it looks like Big Trouble in Little China only because Carlos got to create Raiden. So that's why, and he loved Big Trouble in Little China. as well as everybody, all the guys did. But that's why it looks like the Raiden from Big Trouble in Little China is because that's the way Carlos created that Raiden. So yeah, we borrowed a lot from that. We borrowed stuff from, like, originally when we were pitching the idea, we wanted to have X-rays in the game from Fist of the North Star, the anime. So we're taking ideas from all over the place, and we wanted to put in the game. Like originally, to John, when we first talked about the game, John wanted not only blood, but you were going to be battle worn. So you would start off looking fresh, and as the game progressed, you would get bruises, and your clothes would get ripped, and you'd get like blood all over the place, and you'd be leaking blood. And I remember I kind of complained. I was like, John, if you put blood in our face, nobody's going to be able to recognize me. And then John goofed around. John was a smart butt, and he's like, sure they will, but you'd just be all beat up and bloody like you should be. So we had different, like I said, in Mortal Kombat 1, we had so many ideas: tag teams, secret characters, X-rays, brutalities. That was one of Johny Cage's first fatality finishing move, was to do like a brutality. His first actually fatality was to jump up in the air and punch a hole in your skull. So you turn towards the camera and you'd have a hole in your skull, which I think they used later on. But the first game, originally, that was one of his first fatalities.
I still
Very
like
cool.
the friendship where you sign the autograph and you throw it. That's still
Hey, my 10. That's the best.
I mean, come on. If you don't like Johnny
Yeah.
Cage, you gotta like that. But somebody,
Well, it's so perfect for the character too.
yeah.
Yeah,
so,
that's actually my handwriting.
oh, is it really?
Even better. Even better.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat room, Michael the Michael B, the Game Genie, he said, did they leave Johnny Cage out of Mortal Kombat 3 as a show of respect to Master Pesina because he wasn't going to be on the game? Is that what happened with that and why you weren't on that?
I don't think it was a show of respect. I think it was a show of
Paying royalties.
again, in my yes,
The
exactly.
opposite
Exactly.
end
They
of the
never
meter.
paid me they never, paid the bonus or anything like that, or gave me any credit for helping them create this game. So I think in the when they were making 3, they were like, we're going to take Pesina's characters, Johnny Cage, Scorpion, and Sub-Zero, and not put them in the game. And if you recall, number 3 didn't have those, but it did so poorly that then they made a Ultimate, and they made another one. They made 2 more number 3s to make up for the number 3 that failed. So in reality, at least in my opinion and the way I perceive it, is it's more like, oh, we don't need Pesina's ideas, even though they still use my ideas even today. It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
I have
there's a lot.
before.
A lot
I don't know
of
wrap it
stuff.
up. I say, Angel,
A
go
lot
ahead,
of the
Angel.
stuff, I'm sorry. A lot of the stuff that you see in Mortal Kombat now, I'm starting to see that it came from your idea.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but it's it happens. It happens.
Go ahead, Glenn. You got the last question before we got to wrap this up.
Okay, I think it's a good one. A few people asked me to ask this. It's not coming from me. And Doug and Steven will tell you, I'm not a Street Fighter fan. I'm definitely a Mortal Kombat guy, and I suck at both anyway. It doesn't really matter. But if you were to be a Street Fighter character, who would you be?
Ken. I would be Ken.
Wow. He didn't even stop and think
Nope.
about it. He was
Nope.
just like,
Nope.
bam,
So I can.
Ken.
Because I played Street Fighter when I was younger. I liked the game, but I didn't like the fact that the martial arts in it didn't look real. They weren't real. Like, nobody would kick that way because you'd break your foot, or nobody kind of like some
Who
of the
could even
techniques were
stand
like,
that way? Look how they stand. They're like, I can't even do it. They're like,
yeah.
Twisted
I mean,
sideways.
who does that?
But that's all we had, so I loved that game. I spent a lot of quarters on that game. But so that was one of the things when we were making Mortal Kombat, is we wanted to make it look like it was not only real people, but they actually knew how to fight. When you see them throw their moves in 1 and 2, you can tell that they can really know how to, punch. Their shoulders are not all tight and scrunched up, or they don't look like like a brawler. They look like a martial artist.
Very cool. Well, guys, stick around. We're going to wrap this show up. We really want to thank Daniel Pesina for coming on here. Guys, stay tuned for the post show, those of you that are in the chat. But Master Pesina, we really appreciate you coming on here and having a good chat with us here on this Friday. Anything you want to plug on your website, I'll pull it up here while you talk about that here with what's on your website.
Yeah, naturally, it's mainly geared towards martial arts. But people can reach out to me on social media, Master Pesina on Facebook, Master D Pesina on Instagram, because I cannot remember the password for Master Pesina on Instagram. And they make you, they're like, oh, you want to change your password? What's your old password? And I'm like, that's why.
That's why.
What do you mean with that? I can't remember my old password. That's the whole thing. So they don't really let you do that. So anyway, and then Twitter is actually Master Pesina. And two, if you have any questions besides that, if you didn't get your question in, you can shoot me a question there. It'll take me a day or two to get to it, but I will personally get to it. And also, we're going through a strange time. People are kind of getting a little cabin fever. Just need somebody to say hi to, or just somebody to reach out to. Just reach out to me and say hi. We're all going through the same thing. So nobody during this weird time is special where they're not going the same thing, unless you're super rich. Then you're not basically going through the same thing. Your life is normal.
Well, we appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, I can attest to that. I can attest to that. It's true.
Yeah.
Us super rich people, that's not a problem.
We appreciate you coming on, and we appreciate Braxton Bragg for putting us in touch with you to come on the show and be here with us. We also want to thank this gentleman here, because he also reached out, Mr. Oreo.
Yeah.
That's his new nickname.
Angel.
No, it's Angel.
Thank you.
Check him out. Angel, where can they get in touch with you if they want some of those fabulous marquees that you're building, and also some other stuff that's hush hush?
Actually, I'm actually pushing for phone call orders now, because it's kind of hard to text and write and message everybody the same thing over and over. So you guys can call me up. I'm going to be taking some orders on Sunday. The number is 347-967-6714. Just call me up. Tell me what you guys want. Let's get it done, and we'll get it happen.
Well, we appreciate you for jumping on here, Mr. Angel. Good longtime friend here of the show, and also thank Mr. Douglas Smith, the cool toy himself. What do we got on deck for Sunday?
I believe it's how to configure the controls and what all the menus mean, and like the parental controls and that type of thing for your At Games Legends Ultimate Arcade cabinet.
And before we get to Mr. Glen here.
Okay, so I have a guest here. Look like he's calling in. So is it okay if I bring him on? Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. So let's see who this is.
Why, hello. Hey, Daniel. Yeah, it's me, Scorpion. I know I'm not going to tell anyone that I let you win the fights. It's okay. I'm not going to spoil it for you.
Scorpion, man, I told you, we're live right now.
Spoil it for you. Oh, we're on the air? Oh, man, Daniel, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to tell anyone. No. Daniel does. He wins. I don't throw the matches at all. I promise. Well, you know what? I think it was my doorbell. I better go. Daniel, good seeing you again, my friend. But next time, no hold barred. One, take it away.
Oh, okay.
I do want to mention, if you are an At Games Legends user and fan, they have a huge competition this weekend, starting May 15th at 12:01 a.m. through May 17th at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time for Lock and Chase and Chain Reaction. So place in the top 10 on either game to win 10 BYOG hours, and 10 random winners from each game will also be selected to win 10 BYOG hours. So if you guys feel like you are competitive to do that, we'll see you on the At Games machine. But we also want to thank Mr. Glen, Planetomato, Planamato.
Just his new nickname.
Planamento.
His new nickname is Plant Tomato.
Plant Tomato.
It's Planet Tomato.
Planet Tomato. Very cool.
My marks for the rope came out, so that's good.
Well,
That's a very
hopefully,
good being
hopefully
back
next
on my
week
back.
you're out of the closet and you're back to your arcade.
Let's hope so. I mean, I got to get out of space first of all. I'm still in this black hole, so
And the abyss.
The abyss.
I got to get out of here next. But
Yeah.
but big thank you again to Angel and to our Mortal Kombat guest here today. Big fan. I'm a little starstruck. It's like when I had Pac-Man Fever on here. A little starstruck. having an idol here. I'm fumbling my words. I'm being an idiot, but just a huge fan of his. My childhood, which I'm not that much more of a child, I guess, than him, but the game was still a game I grew up with. Well, I guess I didn't even grow up with it. I was kind of old. Anyway, it was a game I liked to play, and I really want to thank him for many hours of playing.
Even
as
though he's not
Scorpion and
good.
Johnny Cage. No, actually, Mortal Kombat, I'm not too bad
Okay.
in that one. I am.
Okay,
when I play myself against nobody, I win every time.
Okay, Arcade 1-Up, you need to put a new revision of Mortal Kombat out with the Wi-Fi so we can see how good Glen really is. Just saying.
Get over here!
Just saying. Guys, we really appreciate it. And we got one last guy to thank. We appreciate you bringing your action figures and commenting and trying to get him into this whole broadcasting spot so I can retire and just press buttons all the time.
Yeah, I really am a big fan of you, Master Pesina.
Thank you.
Big Mortal Kombat. We got him into that, so.
Well, yeah, because I got the figures. No one can love Mortal Kombat without the figures.
Oh, you hear that? Doug,
Exactly.
a man after your own heart, right?
Yep. And
Love
I'll
it.
tell you, there's no higher compliment to anybody when people tell you that. It just brings something they did brings them enjoyment.
There you go.
And Daniel has done that for so many people. And of course, the government loves him so much too.
That's why they don't arrest him.
So, guys, we will see you next week for more of the Retro Buzz. Who do we got on deck next week, Glenn?
See, I even looked beforehand, so I remember. We have Stephen Cameron on next week, and Stephen runs the ColecoVision Addict and also ran the Xbox Addict websites. But he's got a lot of inside information on the industry that we could probably get out of him. So he's a good
Sweet.
contact to talk to next week. Yeah.
All
Go
right.
for information.
So you guys want to tune in for that. Guys in the chat room, stick around. We're going to bring the phone lines up so you can give us a call, and we'll see you next week for more of the Retro Buzz.